Good morning, St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center. I'm coming to you this morning from my office here on Pot Spring Road, and as you can see behind me is a large collection of books. These are mostly books that I got during seminary for my studies there, but they include some selections from books that I kept for my undergraduate work at the University of Maryland, where I studied middle school math and science education. This is just a small collection, or a small portion maybe, of my books. I also have books at home that are for fun reading, novels and cookbooks, and scrapbooks and things like that, that I really value and treasure and enjoy having. And I'm sitting in front of all of them, in front of at least this portion of my books for this SSS, because I'm going to read the gospel lesson that we have upcoming for this Sunday. And you will see when I get to the last line of it what this has to do with my stuff, our physical stuff. So this is a reading from the Gospel of Luke. And I'll just share briefly that this Bible that I'm reading from here is the Inclusive Bible. So it's a translation of the Bible, which means that biblical scholars put it through a rigorous process to make sure that it is true to the intent of the original text, as much as is possible when translating texts and messages across millennia and cultures, and multiple versions of translations that happened beforehand, before anything was ever written. And it is the first egalitarian translation. So it's I love this translation of the Bible, and I think it helps me connect with stories in a different way than I can in some of the more long-standing traditional translations of the Bible. So I just recommend this to everyone if you are interested in other translations of the Bible, and just so you would know what I'm reading from. So this is from Luke chapter 14. This is verses 25 to 33. Large crowds followed Jesus. He turned to them and said, "If any of you come to me without turning your back on your mother and your father, your loved ones, your sisters and brothers, indeed your very self, you can't be my follower. Anyone who doesn't take up the cross and follow me can't be my disciple. If one of you were going to build a tower, wouldn't you first sit down and calculate the outlay to see if you have enough money to complete the project? You'd do that for the fear of laying the foundation and then not being able to complete the work. Because anyone who saw it would jeer at you and say, 'You started building, but you couldn't finish.' Or if the leaders of one country were going to declare war on another country, wouldn't they first sit down and consider whether, with an army of 10,000, they could win against an enemy coming towards them with 20,000? If they couldn't, they'd send a delegation while the enemy is still at a distance, asking for terms of peace. So count the cost. You can't be my disciple if you don't say goodbye to all of your possessions." That's a heavy one. That is a hard gospel lesson to hear, especially if you take it at face value. It starts off by saying you need to turn your back on all of your family and your loved ones. And I don't want to do that. And something tells me you don't either. That's not a value that we associate with righteousness and with with all of the other values that we care about at St. Francis, like kindness and mercy and justice. That doesn't include turning your back on people, especially the ones you love. And then at the end of that passage, you're hit with another whammy. Give up all your possessions. You can't be my disciple if you don't. I have a lot of possessions. I have a lot of stuff. I have all of these books. I have books at home. I have clothes. I have bags, and I have blankets, and I have more than I need of all of these things, certainly. But I have them because they were gifted to me, or I got them because I like them. I'm someone who loves having festive things for each season. So I have different fleece blankets, some with snowflakes and some with sunflowers, and I have them out and about in my house in different times of the year. Sure, I don't need all of that, but I like them. And this gospel passage says, give up all your possessions. That's hard. I don't want to. Just like I don't want to turn my back on my family and my friends. So what are we to do? What are we to do with this and with Jesus's explanation and teaching about what it means to be his disciple? This is where I think this is a prime example, I think, of when we cannot just take the words of the Bible at face value. We have to ask questions. We have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We can't just look at that one section of text and say, this is what we have to do. Just we can't look at it in isolation. So when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture of Jesus and his message, I'm remembering when he called some of his disciples, and he called them out of a fishing boat. That was their profession. That was their job. They were out there fishing, and Jesus says, drop your nets, leave them, get out of the water and come and follow me, because I can offer you something better. And they did. Those disciples did do that. They left everything they knew to go into the unknown, to go do something hard and scary, but that might be worth it. They left what was comfortable to do something that was not comfortable, that was unknown, intimidating, challenging. I don't know how else they felt, but those are some ideas of how I think they might have felt. They left what was known to follow Jesus into the unknown, into things that they didn't know what to expect. And they left everything they knew. That was their job. They left their families. But that's what it took to follow Jesus and do the work that Jesus needed them to do. Jesus needed people to go with him to do the work that he did. Jesus could not actually do everything that he needed to do by himself. He needed community to carry him through and support him through his ministry. And it became their ministry. And that is, coming back to this reading from Luke, that is what Jesus is talking about here. Jesus is not saying, I want you to harbor hate in your heart for your family. That is the value I want you to have to be my disciple. No. Jesus is saying, I need you to be willing to give up everything to follow me and to do the work I need you to do. Jesus is saying, you might have to do something or spend time and effort and energy in something that, rather than producing something positive for your family, so for the early disciples, rather than going fishing and getting the food for their family, said, look at the big picture. I need you to give that up and come do this greater good. So there might be some personal sacrifice for the greater good. And so that's what Jesus is saying here in this passage from Luke, is that to be his disciple, there might be times where we give up something we love, or we have to set aside our own priorities and our own desires in order for us to focus our energy and do the thing that Jesus is asking us to do the thing that is better for the whole community, for the whole world, rather than just for us individually. And that right there is the heart of what it means to be a Christian, is that we live in community. We can't go it alone. And here at St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center, we know that. We know that, and we believe it, and we do it. We know that we can't go it alone. That's why we understand ourselves, that the fact that we are a church means that we are also a community center. These things are not extricable from each other. They are one and the same. We have to help one another to get through all of the things that we have to do, that life challenges us with. We've showed up for one another, and we'll show up for one another continually. We do it at Pantry on the Go. We do it with, I see it in these school supplies. When I came to the office this morning, there was another box full of headsets and expo markers for kids who need it. Someone in our community decided, rather than spend this money that I have on myself, I'm going to spend it on something that is for someone else. I will never get to enjoy the physical things I'm paying for, but bettering those kids' education is better for the common good, and therefore it's better for me. So this has been kind of rambling. I feel a little bit scattered this morning. But even in that gospel message that's really hard at face value, I can hear the hope and the promise that there is good in the fact that Jesus calls us to be in community with one another. He needs us to set aside our own personal pride, our own personal priorities, our own personal agendas, so that we can follow him and do what is best for the whole. And I see that happening here, and I know it will continue. And so I just wonder how you notice where you participate in setting aside your own stuff, your own priorities, your own agenda. Where do you set that aside for the common good? Because I know you do. So just reflect on that and give yourself a little pat on the back, because it's good, hard work that we're doing together. Take care and see you soon.